Here are 3 photos of snowy owls. I would argue these are one of the greatest birds in the world, and I feel really lucky to have been able to take these too. This third image isn't real. Not a real bird, not a real place, not a real photo. 100% generated by AI based on a prompt that I wrote. I'll bet a few of you experienced birders spotted it right away, maybe helped by the title of this video, but we've recently turned a corner with generated media where it is becoming harder to know what is real and not. A few months ago, Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram, shared this thought on AI with one point that I find especially poignant right now. He said, "For most of my life, I could safely assume photographs or videos were largely accurate captures of moments that happened. That is clearly no longer the case, and it's going to take us years to adapt." And that is what I want to address in this video, at least from a birder's perspective. What do we need to be aware of as AI-generated birds become more abundant? What harms come of it, or does it even matter? A good place to start is by looking back at some of the first artificially generated birds. Interestingly, a lot of these are completely artificial, like they aren't even real birds. One of the earliest ones to go viral was this true abomination of a bird, the Santa Claus bird from December of 2023. But it was closer to 2025 when I started to see these completely made-up birds, which I put in the category of AI slop, that they became much more common on social media. To be clear, there is no bird that looks like this, or despite this caption identifying this as an orange-breasted bunting, endemic to Mexico, this is what one actually looks like. Or this slop that is trying to generate a great barbet, but put the coloration on the body of a gannet? A quick disclaimer, every AI image I'm going to show is a screenshot from Facebook, Instagram, or some other social media. I always credit photographers for images that are not my own in my videos, but since AI-generated images can't be copyrighted, as copyright requires human authorship, I'm not going to be as careful in this video. Anyways, as these images improve, no longer getting physical features wrong, like missing toes similar to how they struggled with human hands, and getting morphological features too, they showed a weakness with biological correctness. The most common of these mistakes was birds generated at nests that seems to favor a stereotypical cup nest rather than what the species actually uses. We got lots of sticks holding eggs, usually eggs that were robin's egg blue, but also odd hanging nests like this Carolina wren, which doesn't build nests like this. Or this crazy, quote, amazing nest, which is apparently magically floating amongst some hawkweed and barley, which would make these altricial chicks like 1/8 of an inch big. Speaking of chicks, check out these hilariously bad baby murder storks. Snowy owl chicks of my nightmares, and if you know anything about male ducks, it is that they are some of the worst dads ever. Copulate with a female, then leave. But here we have a male smew with 3 chicks, a scene that will never happen in nature, but it is much more likely to be shared on social media than one with the less brightly plumaged female. Here's another thing that will never happen in nature. A pair of male buffleheads, apparently walking on water and surrounded by floating hydrangea blossoms. I do love how real each part of this looks, but clearly the AI doesn't have the context to know how each piece fits together. Oh, and I've only been showing photos, but the video slop is even worse. Now, which I'll importantly clarify is April 2026, because this is changing so quickly. Now these generated birds are getting so much better. There are still some imperfections, but what has become most alarming to me is the shift from these perhaps fooling all the non-birders to seeing birders or environmental groups also sharing these photos. Like here's a photo shared by the New Hampshire Wildlife Federation of a common loon with fishing line tangled in its beak. On the plus side, this is labeled as AI generated, and it is actually getting an important message across. Fishing line is harmful to loons. But this feels like manufactured empathy. There are plenty of real loon photos they could have used, like this stock photo. And the choice to try to get people to care about a real problem by showing a fake representation of it feels like a missed opportunity for authenticity that would have been more effective in evoking an emotional and actionable response. A similar but different issue can be illustrated with some horned lark content, which is the ABA Bird of the Year. Great choice. Go support the great work that the ABA is doing. But that makes for an easy subject to target. Fun to compare again that we've gone from morphologically inaccurate slop like this to remarkably lifelike slop like this in a very short time. I need to pause and acknowledge that Facebook and other social media platforms have been full of fake accounts long before the modern AI, but now it is so quick and easy to generate highly shareable content that the problem is growing exponentially. So we get photos like this, beautiful photo of a horned lark, but like too good. These are small birds, and getting this much detail is going to require a telephoto lens, which significantly narrows your field of view, gives you a shallow depth of field. Here are some of the top-rated photos on the Macaulay Library showing that typical effect. To get this landscape perspective, you need a wider angle lens and to be very close to your subject, a very hard feat for photographers, but easily accomplished when AI isn't restricted by any laws of physics. There is one killer wide-angle shot on the Macaulay Library I want to call out of a horned lark by Leo Bix, which was taken on a smartphone. Unlike the earlier loon that was posted by the New Hampshire Wildlife Federation, this horned lark was shared by a fake account, a content farm called Girls with Gardens. The text to go with the post is pretty accurate, albeit completely AI generated. It has the classic AI tropes like the undue emphasis on significance right off the bat. Most people have never noticed this bird, and that's exactly the problem. The classic not X but Y. Naming the horned lark the 2026 bird of the year isn't a celebration, it's a signal. And of course, all of the M dashes. This has been shared many times, including by the American Birding Association, saying compelling thoughts on the bird of the year. And this is where I want to make the point of the underlying threat here. These anonymous accounts, Girls with Gardens, Go Wise Owl, they're all sharing this content just for financial gain. You can literally find playbooks for people to make this account. It says, step 1, pick a simple, solid name. Make it look clean and professional. Start growing the page. Once you hit 20K followers, start posting actively. They point out Facebook is more likely to monetize content that isn't weak, copied, or lazy, so create your own by using news and topics from around the web, like picking the ABA Bird of the Year. Design your own photos, emphasis on design, not take or capture your own, and no grammar issues. Here they even encourage using ChatGPT, obviously. Then within a few months, you could be making $600 to $1,200 per page per month. And some of these pages are just scams. They post a ton of content that all appears legitimate, like beautiful pictures or gardening tips. Then once they've built a large following of people who trust them, the page can be sold to scammers who can easily trick that base, or sold to groups that are pushing specific agendas, and you will start seeing that content, usually under a changed name, and not even realize the switch happened. Not only are these posts completely fabricated and benefiting some unknown entity, they're drowning out the authentic voices that are actually making content worth sharing. In my day job, I work for Maine Audubon, a statewide environmental nonprofit that puts a ton of energy into creating posts that we write based on our own research and using our own photographs. Organizations like this aren't competing for that $600 a month these pages are trying to make, but they are competing for your attention and making sure that accurate, timely information is getting to you. This was actually also in Messeri's message I opened the video with. He says, relatively quickly, AI will create an aesthetic you like, including an imperfect one that presents as authentic. In 4 months since he said that, I think we are there. At that point, we'll need to shift our focus to who says something instead of what is being said. That said, I also saw my first AI slop from an actual person. The style of art was pretty spot as AI generated, but the text of the post was all about a bad experience with an eBird reviewer, basically claiming that the reviewer was too rigid in their thinking about an early migrant that they reported. I'll stop right there because A, this is how eBird works, reviewers are there to help with these outliers, and B, the entire story was AI generated. I ran it through GPT-0, an AI detector, which flagged it as 100% AI. I do wish I had the ability to do more research on the content being used to train these generative models. When Google first released VO2, it was actually pretty easy to find the videos on YouTube that it was trained on. They showed a prompt asking for pink flamingos, which interestingly picked American flamingos over other species that are more globally abundant. But it chose to generate birds that were banded, which is a common trait of birds filmed in zoos, which there's a lot more content of than wild birds. And I really wonder what has been stolen from Cornell, as we've seen since they've added a check from Anubis with a pop-up when you access eBird, which they say was to reduce AI crawlers and bot activity. And I could do a whole other video on the problems of AI editing of bird photos. Instead of just sharpening or reducing noise, new AI-driven software is generating what a bird could have looked like, which can show field marks that were never even there. Or some really bad AI that completely changes the look of the bird, making eyes bigger, heads rounder, and not really showing that species at all anymore. I personally don't see the appeal, but please do not upload the slop to eBird or iNaturalist. There was a paper published in March by Chris Anderson from Cornell University called Synthetic Species, the Emerging Threat of AI-Generated Biodiversity, which I'll link in the description. In it, Anderson points out the increased risk of photographic specimens not being valid in describing new species or ranges. Remember Mosseri's earlier quote, that we could safely assume photographs were accurate captures of moments that happened? Well, Anderson documents how that is no longer the case after an AI-generated species of mantis was uploaded to iNaturalist and even tentatively assigned taxonomic treatment before being flagged by Anderson. You should read that article later. Anderson doesn't hold back any punches, and neither should we. So I'll close this by emphasizing we need to focus on who says something instead of what is said. We need to be skeptical right now of both the content you see shared, but also the promises of AI. There are plenty of posts that go viral about the good side of AI, but like anything on the internet, it isn't always as it seems. And I won't go into the environmental harms of AI. Yes, data centers are bad, but it is too hypocritical to not also be worried about what it takes to allow you to stream this video or doom scroll on Instagram. I'm generally optimistic about technology and thrilled by the good uses that can make birding easier for everyone. And that is my goal, to get the most people to see the most birds, but I just want them to be real birds. This video is definitely a rant about the bad things, but thanks for getting through it with me. I've got some much more fun content coming soon, like that West Indies field guide review, which I really went off the deep end with. And there's some really exciting updates coming to eBird hotspots. So make sure you're subscribed for the fun stuff, and thanks for watching.